Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. This is game 2 of the semi-final in the Dutch Women's Chess Championship. And in the first round, as you may have seen already, I lost. It was quite a terrible game for me, at least I had no chances whatsoever. And this meant that I had to win now with the white pieces in order to level the match and try to come back in tie breaks. So that is quite a difficult task. I'm in a must-win situation, and it does help that I am playing with the white pieces, so I kind of decide what to go for. Now, I started with move e4. By the way, I'm facing Machteld van Foreest, who is a very strong and talented player. Yeah, she totally crushed me in the first game. So even though I was happy to be with the white pieces and to change the pace of the match, I was also you know, a bit terrified because she just plays really well, and beating a strong opponent in a must-win situation is not easy. But I was very excited for the game, and I started with move e4. My opponent for c5, she placed several moves on the first move, so it was a bit hard to prepare exactly what she would be going for. And because I was a bit worried about her preparation, that she may come up with something crazy that I once again do not expect and somehow get crushed by it, I asked my coach what to do, and he asked me, do you want to play a system? And I said, yes, please. I want to survive the opening and then just play chess. So that's what I did. I played move d3. I don't know this. I've never played this. I always thought this was one of those silly openings, but people do play this, and now I'm one of them. My opponent went for knight c6, and here I went for c3, d5. So she quickly takes over the center, which is kind of the idea of this opening, that I'm playing super safe and solid, and I'm going for the long-term approach rather than going for some theoretical line and going for very concrete things. So I'm just developing pieces. Bishop e2. If she takes on e4, I'll be very happy, because then after the queen trade, my bishop takes back on d1, and that is perfectly fine for me. Knight f6, knight e2, e6, f4, and this was kind of the setup that I'm going for. This is kind of the plan. My knight, I didn't really want to put it on d2, but I didn't really have much choice because I had to defend the pawn on e4. And with the move f4 now, I am preparing to move e5. And now that my opponent has seen this move, she now goes for e5. I thought actually that this was not good whatsoever because, well, she just played e6. And this means that she's wasting time. What's the point here? But it turns out that this is completely fine for her, and this is what she was supposed to play. At least it's the best move, because the threat e5 is quite annoying. So yeah, I was shocked that she played this, and mind you, if you look at the clocks, she spent already quite some time, and I was kind of trying to play very quickly to be ahead on time, and it feels much better to be ahead on time like this. But now that she played e5, I thought this cannot be right, so I started spending a lot of time too, and for the longest time I wanted to take on e5, which I didn't, but after takes, I couldn't really figure out what the way to go here is, because I want to play d4, but then takes, and I was calculating a lot of lines here, with knight e2 g4. Turns out that this is completely fine for me. I was a bit scared of this, but turns out that this is good for white, because there's a piece hanging, right, yeah. But there are some lines that I was not entirely sure about, and yeah, it's just a very complicated position. For some reason, I thought there was quite some danger with my king in the open, and with black's activity, that is, my opponent will soon develop the pieces there. So I was not entirely sure about all of this, but turns out that it's completely fine for me. Yeah, perhaps I was scared of some ideas with bishop f5 and knight e3, knight c2. There's all sorts of these kind of tricks, but apparently it's completely fine for me. And in this position, she would have to go back. And, well, that's not really a move to be afraid of, because I can just play e5 and the game continues. So, yeah, I was scared of some variations here, but in the end, I went for the move f5. It was kind of a last-minute decision, because as you can see, I spent 25 minutes on this move, and I think the first 20 minutes were simply calculating whether I take on e5 or not. Well, if that's a good enough of a move. And I just couldn't justify it, and then I figured I'll just play the move f5 then. And soon after, I regretted this because my opponent goes for c4, and I'm like, oh, this is really annoying because my pieces are a bit awkward right now, and I can't really do much with my pawns. They're all under attack over here. My pawn f5 is becoming a weakness, and I thought, oh, this is actually really annoying. I ended up taking on d5 because I thought I have to, otherwise he takes d3 is maybe a bit annoying. And after he takes d3, I was a bit surprised about this move. I thought that she was going to take with the knight and then bishop takes f5, but I guess it doesn't matter so much because after this, I thought I'm just winning a pawn. It's all forced. But now the b takes c6, so I take on e5 check, and after bishop e7, I'm thinking, well, I thought that I have to take the pawn because if I don't take the pawn, the f5 pawn is hanging. So I will be losing a pawn rather than winning a pawn. But in this position, it's becoming clear how bad my position actually is. And the computer is already saying that this is lost. It's just crazy. Like, I'm up a pawn, and it doesn't seem like black has much development. But the problem is that black will develop very soon, whereas my king is struggling to castle. And my pawn is the bishop pair, whereas I don't have that, and with all the open diagonals in the position, this is very dangerous for me. But yeah, I was hoping that somehow I'm still fine here, but turns out it's just a really bad position, and I have a hard time developing. So I spent quite some time here. I really wanted to play knight h3, but I couldn't quite justify this because of bishop a6, and I just can't castle. And the idea of black is that black will simply play short castle, put the rook on e8, and then I have a huge problem on the e file. I can play king d1 to not lose material, but yeah, it's quite safe to say that the king is not going to survive in the middle of the board over here on d1, unable to castle any longer. So I really need to put my king into safety. I need to castle. So for the longest time, I thought I have to do something or play knight h3 or something, but I couldn't figure it out, and I ended up playing knight gf3 anyway. Queen d3, and this is such an annoying move. It's apparently not the best move, but I thought it was really annoying during the game because I can't castle, and she's attacking the pawn on f5. I don't really know what to do about this, so I'm just going to retreat, offer a trade of queens, and accept the fact that I'm going to lose that pawn. She takes on f5, queen takes, bishop takes, knight e5, and now, in this position, I'm thinking, well, I see some chances here, because after bishop a6, I take a pawn, and still the computer thinks that black is completely fine. It's not even equal, it's just that black is better, which is crazy. But there is one move that my pawn needs to play here, because now the bishop is under attack on e7, right? And if I take that bishop, then I'll simply be up a pawn, and black will no longer have the pair of bishops, which is very important to have in this position. And yeah, here I'm thinking, well, I need to go for a win, right? And the more that we're trading pieces, the more we're getting to an end game. I'm not seeing many chances to win. But then the craziest thing ever happened. My opponent plays the move short castle, and I am in disbelief. I did not have much of a reaction during the game because internally I'm like, okay, this is it. This is the moment to strike and win the game and go to tie breaks. That's all I could think about because I have to win this game. I just simply take the bishop because what my opponent forgot about for a second is that this comes with check. So she was trying to be clever with, she would follow this up with rook e8 and then put the rook on e7, and my king would be awkward. I cannot castle. So it would have been a clever move if it wasn't for the fact that it's check now. My opponent has to play king h8, and now I'm free to do anything here. Well, I cannot castle, but I can play any move here and save the knight, which means that I'll be up not just a piece, but also a pawn. So I'm up a pawn and a piece, but the only problem is my king. And my development is really bad. Like, this is all stuck. The knight is not going anywhere just yet. And first I have to fix this problem. Obviously I can go back with the knight, but if I do that, then soon a rook will land on the second rank. And it's crazy, but for some reason, black has some counterplay possibilities. Like, it's not dead lost just yet. This is not a position that black should resign. Even though many would just resign after knight takes e7, and then realize that this comes with check and they cannot win the piece back. This is not a position to resign, and you will see why. King f2. I'm simply getting out of the pin. I'm activating my king because it's an endgame, and the king doesn't really feel safe anywhere else than, let's say, on g3, and then maybe I can play h3 and put the king on h2 and it's safe. So my opponent goes for check, king g3, f5. Here, the trick is that if I take on f5, I'm running into not necessarily problems immediately, but it's just very dangerous. I didn't want to do this at all because what is this? Bishop e2 is happening. There's a pawn coming over here on the h file moving forward, and my pieces are still stuck. Or maybe rook f2, bishop e7. I don't know. There's all sorts of ideas here that I don't really want to allow. So naturally, I don't take on f5. And conveniently, it's not the best move either. Well, it wasn't a minute ago, but now it is one of the best moves. But anyway, I did not want to entertain any of this, and I thought I'm just going to play knight f3. Knight f6, h3. By the way, this game is going on for a long time. Don't think that this game is ending anytime soon. This game is going for a while, and you will understand very soon why. So I'm playing h3 because my opponent was starting to play knight e4 check, and my king would go to h4, and once that king lands on h4, it's very tricky. Like, every single move is winning right now, because if I still lose a piece, I'm still winning because I have a pawn, or I can capture another pawn with my piece, but it's quite a complicated position, and you know that in the endgame, when your king is on the edge of the board with pawns all around, it's very dangerous. The opponent's pawns, that is. And that is exactly why I don't want to put my king on h4. So I play h3 to be safe, bishop b7. My opponent is trying to trap my knight, which makes a lot of sense because I'm not really moving anywhere. By the way, if I take on f5, knight h5 check, and actually, or knight e4 check. Yeah, knight e4 check is better because after this king g4 to defend the knight, then there's knight f2 check. So that's why that is also not ideal. Or king f4 and then take knight g3 or something. Perhaps this is still fine because the knight is stuck on h1. But anyway, there are all sorts of these tactical ideas that I want to avoid. That's why I'm not taking on f5. That pawn is better off as an umbrella for me to cover any sort of attack, right? So here I play c4. And this was a very deliberate choice because I'm basically accepting that I'm losing a piece. The reason why is because the position feels shaky. I simply want to simplify, get into an endgame that is completely winning, and then win that. So the move c4 is followed by f4 check. Obviously, I cannot take because knight h5 check and the bishop drops. It's crazy, by the way, that this is still winning. Like, imagine. But yeah, I just retreat to h2. That's not what I played. This is what I played. Bishop takes f3, g takes f3. I expected all of this. By the way, if I play king f2, I thought knight e4 check, knight goes to g3, and that is very scary. With the rook coming to a8 as well, I don't know. It looks dangerous to me. So I play king h2, bishop takes f3, pawn takes, rook ae8, rook e1, and here rook f7. And I cannot defend the knight any longer. The knight is getting lost. But this was all planned, because I'm going to take that pawn on f4. Finally, that pawn is gone. And now we just trade into an endgame where I'm up 2 pawns. And I just think that I'm going to win with the c pawn. Like, that's it. Rook d1. Because if I play c5 now, then I thought maybe knight d5 ideas or something. Well, it's not really a problem here, because if knight d5, I just play rook d1, right? And that's just over. But yeah, for some reason I didn't push c5 yet, and I just played rook d1. In hindsight, maybe c5 would have been easier to do right away, because now my opponent went for king g8, and the king is getting closer. Rook e2 check, king g1. If king g3, knight h5, and I don't want to know how that will end for me. It looks very dangerous. So I just played safe, rook c2, and here I went for the move rook c1. Yeah, I'm just thinking, well, I can't really push a pawn. I could have played b4, but complicating matters, rook c4 will be allowed, or a5, and some complications. And I thought, let's just get the rooks off the board. That rook is active on the second rank. Let's just get rid of it, and the endgame should be completely winning. Takes, king f7, c6. I thought that pawn is just, we're just going full send here. Do keep in mind that now I ended up in time trouble. I had so much time a couple of moves ago, but I tanked so much time that, yeah, I ended up on 1 minute for a couple of moves, which is not quite ideal. C7, king d7, bishop f4, knight d5, and here I went for bishop g3. And this is not a bad move whatsoever, but it is making my life very difficult because we need to centralize the bishop. For some reason, I thought that the bishop on e5 would run into some sort of forks, and I thought that's why I have to keep my bishop on g3 safe and sound away from the knight, and then my king can come closer. Well, could not be further from the truth because, well, with the bishop on e5, I'm also attacking the pawn on g7, so I'm basically winning a tempo this way because if my opponent takes the pawn c7, I take the pawn g7, or I can trade and then win the pawn endgame. But yeah, this way, it's apparently better for me to take the pawn g7 and lose the pawn on c7 on purpose, because then I'll have 2 passed pawns on both sides of the board, basically, which is easily winning with the bishop against the knight. But here I thought, well, let's just play it safe, and I regret this very soon, because now knight b4, I have to move the pawn, knight d3, I have to move the pawn, knight b2. Okay, what to do next? Well, king f1, because I want to bring the king closer. Knight c4, I have to move the pawn. Knight d3 check, I have to move the king. Knight d5, there's a pawn hanging, and there's knight c3 check. And I cannot defend both. Well, I can play bishop e1 to defend both squares, but then I definitely lose c7, and then maybe it's not that clear any longer. And, well, this was a moment that, okay, we cross move 40, so I got extra time, but I am losing any of these 3 pawns. And, well, I'm definitely losing one of these 2. And when I lose one of these 2, this one will also be captured. And when all of this will be traded, it is a drawn endgame. Or, well, I could even lose that. But let's just assume that that will be a draw. And I'm like, huh? How is this possible? Am I not just, like, do I not have any sort of counterplay here to counter this? Like, what is this? So I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what to do here, and I ended up playing king d3. I am sacrificing the b pawn because I thought the a pawn is further away. I need to get my king to a6 to try to capture the pawn a7. I thought that keeping the b pawn would not be of any help whatsoever. Well, that's still fine, but after all of these moves, I have to give up the c7 pawn, and I assume that, okay, I'm taking a pawn a7, so I still have a passed pawn. But as I'm making more and more moves, I'm slowly starting to realize that, did I just throw the advantage? Like, am I still winning? And I didn't know I was still winning, as in, obviously I'm trying to be optimistic and I'm trying to go for the win, but I'm slowly starting to realize that I think I really messed up. And I didn't truly mess up until this very moment where I played king to d4. This turned out to be the mistake of the game, because the idea is that my opponent is going to take the pawn h3, then sacrifice the knight for the pawn f3, and with the bishop and the pawn is promoting on the light square, the bishop is of the wrong color. Only these 3 pieces where the king is already on b7 or like in that area, that is a draw. And while I am fully aware of this, I thought that I'm just going to win the knight with the bishop on e3, and on h3 it will not be able to move whatsoever, and that's it. That's a win. But I made a minor miscalculation, and that is how I assumed that king d4 is fine, and if she goes for the h-pawn, we're good. But I could have just played bishop e8 to prevent any of this, to protect my pawns, and I don't know what happened. I just allowed this to happen, and I completely forgot that my opponent is basically winning or like taking the pawn by force. I was assuming that after this I would take on g5, but what I missed was knight g1. I completely forgot about this because after it takes knight g1 f4, she's going to play knight h3 and then take the pawn f4, and that is an automatic draw. That's it. So yeah, I played a couple of moves more, and we went all the way until this moment where I win the knight, but the king is right there to stop the pawn, and there's nothing I can do, and I just made a draw like this. And with this draw, it meant that I was knocked out of the Dutch Women's Championship. I was devastated. I could not even begin to comprehend how devastating this was, but this is what happened. This is the reality. And this is why we all hate chess so much. because I could not comprehend that I went from completely winning in this position to where I'm up 2 pawns, 2 clear pawns. I didn't even want to go back to the position where I was up a piece, a full piece, and a pawn, and I still could not convert this, and I end up in this final position. I thought this cannot be any worse because I was so winning like half of the game, more than half the game was winning. Did I deserve to win that? Probably not, because her blunder was very random, and I did not provoke any of it. It was not really my doing. So in hindsight, I don't really feel like I deserved the win, but at the same time, I thought, well, I didn't deserve to go down this way because of the fact that this is a knockout. This game mattered so much, and well, I think normally if I wouldn't have won this game in like an open tournament, it wouldn't have hit me this badly. But because I was knocked out after this, and I was so looking forward for the tie breaks, everyone in the community was rooting for tie breaks, and there were so many people rooting for me, and I just felt like I disappointed everyone. Everyone is rooting for me has to see this happen. This is, I don't know, I could not feel any worse after this. So this was truly, truly sad. I don't think I have felt this bad in a very long time. Like, I have had really bad games, but this game was bad and very, very sad. So yeah, that is how I basically got knocked out of the tournament. And yeah, people are telling me to not make a recap, and I thought that's no, I want to make a recap. I still want to talk about the game, and I want to share my journey, no matter what happens, because a lot of things can happen, and this goes to show that even us title players are capable of tragedies like this, where one player blunders a piece for no reason, and the other person is unable to convert in the same game. So yeah, I was devastated, but at the end of the day, it's another learning lesson. During the game, I was feeling a lot of pressure, especially ever since I won the piece. That's when the pressure started. Like, before that, it was pressure, but not to the degree that I could not, think or play well. After I won the piece, that's when I was getting so much pressure, and the adrenaline would it skyrocketed, and I just couldn't process it anymore. I couldn't comprehend what's happening anymore, and the focus was there, but I started overthinking way too much. My clock went down really fast, and I just didn't know what to do anymore. So yeah, that's what happened, and that's why you should never give up, and you should keep playing, keep going, keep trying to find resources. And Martels fought really well. She kept playing, and she found so many amazing resources. So I feel like in the end she deserved at least the draw in this game. So later, after this, just to quickly give you what happened in the tournament, she ended up winning the tournament. She was very close to losing it. She was not supposed to win it once again. And next time she also was not supposed to win, but she did end up winning the tournament. So congratulations to Machteld for winning the Dutch Women's Championship. This is her second title, actually. This is not her first time winning it, but yes, I have yet to win this tournament, and this format is not working out for me. It's not. So I have to spend the upcoming year to get ready for such a format and be back stronger, because it is high time that I'm going to win the Dutch Women's Championship. I feel like I'm the only one of the top players in the country that has not won the tournament, which is very sad. So I want to win this tournament, and I will do my best in the upcoming year to come back stronger. So everyone better be ready for me next year. Anyway, I'm very, very sorry for this sad result and sad end of the tournament. I will come back stronger, because my next tournament is already starting next week, so that's going to be very exciting. It will be an open tournament, so no more of this knockout or crazy prep against me kind of stuff. It's still possible, but less likely, because during open tournaments, prep is just not that big of a major factor, as much as it is in closed tournaments or knockout matches and stuff. So anyway, thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate the support. It keeps me going. even when I play so poorly as I did in this game. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching the recaps. I hope you enjoyed being part of the journey. And no matter what happens, we keep going, and I'm going to do my best to come back stronger next year. I want to win the Dutch Women's Championship 2026, and I will keep trying. So there's that. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.